series, and this time where we are focusing on the concept of how can academia impact sports. The topics of anything to do with the structure of the academia and the way it can impact the real sports, the clubs, the federations, the sports and the recreational sports. Some people say that there is a big gap between the universities and the real life sports. And we have great panelists today, and we would like really to explore that and really tap into also the future of academia and the future role of academia in sports. So we have a great blend of experts from Europe, from the US, and we want to really open some conversations today and really give some food for thought in terms where is this all going. Now, if I may start perhaps with the point of, when I speak, we work with Loughborough University, for example, or NYU and others, and I still hear that there is a gap between what's happening in clubs and federations. I would expect that university will be so in and working together with the brands on everything. And it's not like that. Everybody's looking for research. Everybody is looking for the next entrepreneurs that are growing up in the universities. Where are they growing up? So why is this, maybe it's only my perception, but why is this bonding not strong as you would like it to be? And let's start with Jim from Ohio, and if you can introduce yourself as well for our crowd all over the world.
Sure, Amir. Thank you. My name is Jim Strode. I am an associate professor and the chair of the Department of Sports Administration at Ohio University here in Athens, Ohio, United States. And I wrote down a couple of things that you mentioned about this gap. And I think that there is a gap between the industry and the academy overall, across national associations in the academy. But I think that if we look at universities case by case, I think we have some amazing things that are going on. So, for example, here at Ohio University, our researchers are primarily application-based. We are working with sport clients, some of our amazing alumni, to be able to help answer some of the questions that they may have, collect data. But we do see that if you look at the academy overall, what's incentivized for publishing is typically theoretical work. So if you look at, let's say, the North American Society for Sport Management, which is an overarching organization for sport management academics, the primary journal is typically just read by academics. It's not necessarily as accessible to our partners in the industry. And that's where universities need to be more proactive and faculty need to be more proactive to be able to show that, we can provide value for these organizations and not just write articles that are, 2 or 3 levels in some other headspace.
Correct. So you mean get more proactive, Jim?
Correct.
Can you give us some examples of what does this mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that we need to, as an academy, place more priority on practitioner-based and application-based academic journals, right? Or we need to take our best works that are theoretical and break it down into a more usable space for our partners in the industry.
And why is it not happening so far?
Well, I think that part of, when we look at our academic journals in our field, there's a lot of factors that make a journal elite or top. And typically an impact factor comes into play. And that's basically a simple metric to be able to show how much reach that article has had with other faculty. But again, the folks with the New York Knicks and the NFL and other organizations aren't picking up our academic journals to get the latest, but they're picking up Sport Business Journal. They're picking up other, more periodicals that are really speaking to them, and our journals necessarily aren't the most accessible. So I think it's more of a systematic issue that we have which again, I look at, as an industry, as sport management, as an academy. It's problematic, but at the university level, I think we can make great change.
Okay, got it. Let's move to Cologne and Stefan. Obviously, you're already starting with a, very high score because you're just around my favorite team in the Bundesliga, FC Köln. But may I ask you on this specific topic, maybe we shouldn't complain. Maybe it's two different worlds. You have the academy, the research. This is about, strategically long-term, researchers which are, and the real life is about, football and how we are winning next week and on the weekend and, staying in the league. What is that, how do you see that and where you are?
Yeah, hello everybody, and thanks for inviting me and joining the sessions. Amir, it's a great pleasure. I'm working for the German Sport University for more than 10 years in the area of sports management, with a specific focus here on sports marketing and international sports management. And as you said, we share the same passion here for the local football club here in Cologne. And we are very proud to be the academic partner of the club. And we help to specifically these football clubs, but also the sporting environment to improve and to be prepared for the future. And as Jim also mentioned, there is maybe different languages between and a different approach to where people in the field, in the sports organization and the club, where it's more the short-term orientation results. So you need to win the match tomorrow. Yeah. And we from academia are looking more into the long-term perspective and say, okay, what needs to be done and what needs to be prepared for the future and how things are changing and what needs to be adapted in the organization, what kind of technology must be used, etc. And I think we have some good results at the moment, but we are not there where we want to be at the moment.
Excellent. But Stefan, this is very high level. If I'm a team now in London or in New York, why should I start work with your faculty? Yeah. Why should I engage with each one of the universities? What's in it for me? Or if I'm a federation? Yeah. I just had a call with the new federations coming up in the space of basketball. Why should they work with universities? What's good for them?
I think the university there is more the groundbreaking research, I would always say. So they come up with this topic, question, and research finding, which can be applied in many, many ways. And the good thing is that we look at it from different perspective and from different discipline and to integrate different disciplines. And I think that's the probably from my perspective the biggest advantage, that we look at a certain problem from different perspective and from multidisciplinary perspective. And often we go over just the problem, so we go more into depth. Okay, what's the cause for the problem? What's the reason for the problem? And not just identifying the problem.
Yeah, that's great, but I'm missing some examples. Maybe I'll try my luck with Brandon. I'm missing some examples for use cases where, I know that clubs like Chelsea are working with Loughborough University. I know that FC Köln has a project with you. Brandon, help me out here.
Yeah, I think sometimes, whether it be with teams or clubs.
Maybe if you can introduce yourself, just please.
I will. I'll introduce myself first. My name is Podgorski. I'm an assistant professor of sport management at Trine University in Indiana, here in the States. And to kind of piggyback on what Stefan was saying, and to answer your question, at least from my perspective, is I think, sometimes clubs and teams, they may not have the breadth of knowledge in a certain place where they might end up outsourcing, whether it be in sales, whether it be in marketing, HR, whatever it would be. And I think a lot of times universities can be untapped resources to kind of help them through some of those things, whether it be with research or whether it be with revenue production, like we do here at Trine. We've got a partnership with a professional basketball team, a G League team at Trine, where we help them with produce a little bit more revenue through ticket sales and on the marketing side. And, a lot of teams, whether they're constrained by budget or by time or by staff, partnering with the local university that has those is a great opportunity for them.
Okay, but excuse me for, can you give me a specific example where you worked with a project was worked with university, whether it's budgeting, whether it's planning or research, which made, create an impact on a federation or a club or a sports? Sorry for, just so I think people in the crowd needs to get it to be more tangible.
Mm-hmm. Sure, I'll give you a couple, and we've just started this at Trine,
sure.
So we are still in the infant stages. But like I said, we partner with an NBA G League team for a ticket sales class, and we actually put our students, we make them ticket salesmen for them and put them through the whole process. But I think another better example is that we've got an Innovation One challenge at Trine, and part of that is coming up with something completely new that's, as you would say, it's going to kind of revolutionize the industry. We had one student come up with an app, with an idea for the app. And he actually took it to one of our NFL teams here in the States. In this app, it combined a lot of things. One with revenue generation and trying to get fans more involved along the lines of, you could be at a game and you have this app and, a quarter or a halftime into a game, you see a few seats, above or below you that are open. Well, you just go into the app, pay $15, $20, and now they're yours. So it's a way to kind of get people, move them up maybe the ticket escalator, but also help with some revenue generation. Integrating with their POS system, so concessions come right to you, or you got a parking spot as soon as you get there. So these are things that, maybe are on the periphery of teams, or maybe on the periphery of teams and clubs where they think, it'd be great to do something like this, but we just don't have the knowledge, the manpower, and maybe we can't necessarily put our thoughts into action as much as, universities can. We have a little bit more, I don't want to say brain power because that's not, that's a little snarky, but we have maybe a little bit more facility to do things like that.
Got it. Okay, great, and thank you. I think this gives some examples in terms of, I would say, collaborations. Maybe Martin, we can ask you also to refer to that. Obviously, we met like 5 years ago in one of our hype events in Google, and I know you're, you're traveling around. You know what's happening in the different continents. What's your take on the current status of the collaboration between the universities and the real life and the real sports?
Well, hi everyone, my name is Martin Colsonvall and I'm the director of the Center for Sports and Business at the Stockholm School of Economics. My take is that you need to work on an industry level. That's, I think, is the core idea that we've learned here in Sweden, and obviously Sweden being a small country, maybe that has benefited a lot. But we've done work with students, we've done work with individual clubs. Nothing actually produced tangible results until we worked on the league level. Because when you have all the league level presidents and the chairmen in the same room, and you combine the rigor of academia with the relevance of almost being like a hybrid management consultancy, that's when you produce the actions. So what we've done is
on a league level.
Yes. So what we do is we have high-level executive education programs for all the club CEOs, both in Swedish soccer and in Swedish hockey. And when we do that, we obviously charter together a strategic agenda for all the leagues. And that helps us enormously when students and faculty members go out to individual clubs, because then all the initiatives are sort of embedded into a larger strategic agenda. And that also helps to sort of conquer the challenges of different time horizons. Because if you chart a joint strategic agenda with the leagues, then people won't say, well, you know, what's in it for me short term here? Then you have that sort of 5-year agenda. And we have that with the multiple sports here in Sweden, and that has really helped us a lot.
Got it. So you've like created a special, I would say, platforms for CEOs of leagues where you're giving them value, and through this you create the connection, the relationship, and then you can create some research projects and develop that.
Yeah, what we call is through our advisory board, so echoing previous talkers here, we have formalized the relationship with the different sports. I think that's number one, because when you have strategic formal relationship, the long-term connection is there. And then together with all our sports, we've charted a strategic agenda, which is a 5-year agenda with 12 different concrete themes. And these 12 themes are in 3, you could say, overall umbrella ideas. One is innovation, one is sustainability, and one is efficiency. So all the research that we're doing actually gives very tangible, concrete impact to the different sports. And then they
Excellent.
Yeah.
Can I follow up with you on that?
Yes, please.
Let's say I'm the CEO of the one of the leagues, let's say the football league, yeah, in Sweden. And I've been with you now for 3 years in the program that you've coordinated in these 3 topics. What eventually did I get out of these 3 years working with you and being part of your platforms? What tangible did what I created for my league?
So what we've done is we've created what we could call a product, which we call the modern sport office. So the most tangible thing is to say, it used to be that you're only competitive on the sports side and you have all the data analytics and everything. But when it comes to marketing, when it comes to the finance function, when it comes to operations, you didn't really work as hard there. With the modern sport office, we say you need to have one performance culture in the entire organization. So in the same way that you kick people out in the sport side, you need to do the same in the administrative side. And when you have one very tangible, one culture, performance culture, that helps both on the club level, but it also helps on a league level very much. So what we can see now, for example, during COVID-19, is that in both the Swedish Hockey League and in the Swedish Football or Soccer League, the trust between CEOs has been superb. So they really start helping. So both, you could say, a little bit more hardware stuff, you know, very concrete things, but also softer things that CEOs dare to pick up the phone and just, you know, say, I have problems here. Could you help me? Those things are also benefits that you get out of our program.
Excellent example. Thank you very much for this, Martin. Let's move now to my favorite city in the world, London. I spent 10 years in London, more on the north part, Ian, apologies for that. But what's your take on that in terms of collaboration with the real life, with sport brands, and you have few good, pretty good teams around you there in London?
Yeah. So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the invitation. I'm Ian Pickup, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the University of East London. And we're located pretty much in the Olympics of 2012 heartland, and based in Docklands with our Sports Dock Arena, which you can see behind me, hopefully, on my green screen. Now, just to pick you up on a couple of things there, Amir, you know, universities versus the real world. You know, universities like mine are very much the real world. And our student population, our academic community is absolutely real. And the real world challenges that we face in ensuring that our learners and our population of workers can access physical activity, can fulfill their potential in the world of sport, are significant challenges. So one of the key, you know, questions is not how do we help win on Saturday? It's how we help utilize sport as a true vehicle for social transformation, for education, and for the fulfillment at an individual level with our students or local community members, with our partners across the globe, or indeed other partners that we're working with who are interested in winning on Saturday. Because that winning on Saturday is about all of those players on the pitch or on the court or on the water, firing together to fulfill their collective potential. So those are bigger questions for me, and the bigger questions are questions that can only be answered in a multidisciplinary way. So we might be thinking here a lot about technology. We might be thinking a lot about the marketing and the business side, the ticket sales, and getting bums on seats to watch everyone play. But equally, how do we take away barriers to health? How do we ensure that everyone can benefit from taking part in sport and the health gain and the learning gain they will accrue from doing that? And so the answers may lie in a sports faculty. The answers may lie in education or a psychology faculty. Equally, it might be in the world of architecture and design of spaces. And actually, a university, in the truest sense, can bring all of those faculty together to help solve some of those real complex, indeed wicked problems that people have been facing for decades now in the world of sport. So for me, it's not about just winning on Saturday, although anyone that knows me will know how competitive I am. That is very important.
Which is your team? Nobody's listening.
Well, the University of East London, we have our team, which is West Ham. West Ham United is our Premier team, playing from the Olympic Park. So, wrong of me to suggest I support anybody else at this stage.
Of course. Excellent, Ian. Thanks for this. And I fully agree that the university is really, and the academic is playing an amazing role in tapping onto the topics which, the day-to-day clubs and the day federations are not, will never go there because, as you said, it's not creating tangible results tomorrow. And those strategic thinking and strategic planning is crucial. We see now what's happening with the COVID and, how suddenly everybody is now after innovation. We just completed, on the way to complete our global virtual accelerator, over 1,000 startups registered for this. And suddenly you see tier one clubs, federations, the Golden State Warriors, Miami Dolphins of the world, all searching for innovation, whether it's no-touch technologies, whether it's fan engagement, new fan engagement platform. Suddenly everybody is looking for that. But universities are there to create a long-term strategy and long-term solutions. And I think more importantly, and apologies for taking the conversation at the beginning to the world of collaboration with the brand and club, but your main role in the world is education, and this is something you do, and this is, I believe, your core focus. But let me try and challenge you a little bit. I read an article which is stating that the universities in their current structure is about to disappear because all those offices and big buildings, and now everything is online, and why do we need that? And also they are very old, they are not really using the best of the breed technology that are coming over now, and the fact that like the conversation that people have on education in general. My kids, the way they studied in universities, in primary schools, this is all about to be changed now with the technology and what's available. How do you look at the future of universities as a whole, and obviously with relations to sports? If we talk in 5 years' time, would you still sit in your real offices? Would it still be the same? How do you see this? The evolution that is happening now in everywhere, and the impact on the university. Maybe let's start from this time from Brendan.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. And I see your point, and I've read the same articles. I mean, there's always going to be a place for actually brick and mortar classes at the university level. And I think there's some majors and maybe some industries and jobs where it makes a lot of sense to go the online route or to choose something a little less expensive as opposed to maybe working in sport. And this is just from my experience, as a sport professional and working as a professor. There's things we do in the classroom and experiences and immersions and trips and networking that we do in the classroom that simply can't be replicated online. And, part of working in sport is, I'm sure a lot of people would agree, it's making those connections, it's networking, and it's also getting experience. And I just don't see the same kind of breadth of knowledge and experience that you'll get as an online student as you would in a traditional seated class.
Got it. So you say that the interface and the interactions are something that will have to be in the heart of education. Jim, what's your thoughts on this? Where are we heading in terms of education in universities?
I think that there needs to be some significant change, and I think we're seeing that right now. So if you look at where I'm located here in Ohio, you can throw a stone and probably hit another university, right? We have universities, brick and mortar schools around every corner, right? And we're seeing that with people having less children, we're having a dip in the amount of students that are available in this pool to be able to come, right? We're also seeing that college is increasingly becoming unaffordable, right? People are leaving universities with $100,000 in debt and a degree that may not necessarily help translate themselves into, translate into a career.
Now you're talking.
Yep. So, we're seeing that, students are looking, hey, if I have to go to school and pay this amount, I want to go for less. I want to try to hack the system a little bit. So, they're going to their high schools, their secondary schools, and receiving academic credit. So they're coming to us at the sophomore or sometimes the junior year level, right? And coming in and out in, 2-3 years. So, to Brandon's point, you're not going to be able to replicate the networking and the experiential learning, or at least to be very difficult to do that in an online setting. But we do need to really think about affordability. We need to think about the method that we're delivering our information and our content. And I think that, when you look 5-10 years down the road, we're going to see a great consolidation of colleges and universities. We're going to see some that are just going to go away. Some, may start to specialize. We do see sports management schools around the world. We might start to see that in other academic fields too. So I think that COVID has certainly sped up this process, but there are issues that need to be corrected.
Very interesting. So consolidation. Let's move to Martin now. What's your take on this? Universities moving forward and education. Is it just about consolidation, or we are looking at a real revolution?
I think the university market is so big and so varied. So in some parts, I'm sure there will be a little bit more drastic changes, while in other parts, looking 5 years down the road, I think one has to take a step back and say, universities has been around for hundreds of years. So why would we then think and see a change that's going to be drastic throughout? I think a lot of things will happen, but to me, the most important things is the integration of the physical and the digital. So rather than saying, well, now we move from physical to digital, what we are really thinking very hard about is the integration of the two. So for example, one thing that you cannot do digitally is to mobilize all the senses. Real time here, we can hear and we can see, but we cannot smell, we cannot taste. And those sort of the best experiences that you've had, if you think about it, is when you mobilize all the senses. So what we've experienced is that trust is really built between top executives. When we mobilize all the senses through the food, the coffee, everything in our executive education. And I don't think we will ever do that just digitally. While in other parts, historically, due to the cost of doing executive education, now with digital, we can bring in, international experts like we're doing here, or we can let other parts of the clubs get access to that knowledge. So to me, it's the integration of the digital and the physical that's really gonna sort of create educational experiences that's gonna be much, much better than before.
Got it. Ian, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, thank you. So I agree with what's been said, although I would go a step further, and I would encourage us all to look much harder at our curricula and our pedagogy. not just in sport, but across the universities. So here in East London, we have a pretty new curriculum approach where every student at every level, in every course, every program, and our university is pretty comprehensive, studies a module every year that we call mental wealth. Not mental health, mental wealth and professional fitness. And that covers a range of core competencies that are designed and co-designed with employers in various sectors to help accelerate our students' journey into their future careers. And so that's an absolutely deliberate and strategic, but a practical approach to equipping our students with the learning and personal and professional development beyond their traditional subject base. And we're doing that in partnership with a range of employers. And of course, blending the learning style with face-to-face, online, but also experiential and work-based learning. Be that in a traditional placement model, be it in a more of a technical learning situation in labs and studios in different subjects, but also to ensure that our students can access the right experience to apply their knowledge, both in the subject discipline areas and in those cross-cutting, you could call them transferable skills, core competencies that are absolutely in demand across all sectors, including the sports sector professionally. So there's a key focus for us on that professional fitness and readiness for all students, and that would include our students who are studying in our sports-related disciplines.
That's a very practical approach here, and thank you for that. And this leads us to something which I believe is even more practical. I want to talk about entrepreneurship, and the relations to sports and into education as a whole. You know, in every analysis or research that you see talking about the future of jobs, you see that, in a few years' time, a lot of the jobs are going to disappear. Just mentioning the fact that cars, will have no drivers, so the impact on, on all the people that are holding the wheel, planes will be automatic. Tons of robots will going to take over our lives and blah, blah. But overall, you cannot ignore the fact that the world of jobs will be changing dramatically. And all kinds of impacts on our lives. And usually those statements say that there is one profession that probably is not going anywhere, which is about entrepreneurship. Because entrepreneur is a person that can wake up in the morning, understand a certain need, and find a solution for that. And the needs are not going to disappear. They're just going to be new needs. Or we're going to invent some need. Like Steve Jobs, nobody thought in 2007 that, I need something to play with my finger. Suddenly there was this phone, and then you say, wow, that's great. So he created a new need that we didn't know exist. There will be needs like this evolving all the time. So if entrepreneurship is one of the most, rare, I would say, professions that will stay here forever or for a long time. And we know that this is a driver of the economy, and obviously we now see how this is important in sports. How come I see universities sometimes where students can finish a full degree without having one entrepreneurship course? What's your thoughts on this, and what's your strategy and approach with regards to entrepreneurship? And I will start with Stefan.
Thank you, Amir. It's a very, very well point, and sorry for disconnecting for a couple of seconds. There were some technical problems here, but that's solved. I can just say from my university, the entrepreneurial education is just at the beginning in many ways, and I fully agree that needs to be integrated in the curriculum for all kinds. So especially developing entrepreneurial skills and competences on a student level, that's very important. And I think that's, at least from my perspective, let's say the major job universities have to do, and not really providing the innovation and the tangible product at the end. But we have to be careful. Not every student is an entrepreneur. So some students have more entrepreneurial skills when they enter the university, and it's our job now to develop these skills. And some have less skills on this, and it's also our job to develop these skills and bring it to a higher level at the end. And with all the features and methods and the tactics we have here, but as I said, at our university, we are at the beginning at this. But that's definitely for sure, and it's one of the key KPIs we say for universities, the employability. So to make sure that students are employable, even if the environment is changing, the social environment is changing, the technical environment is changing, so that they are able to adapt these changes and to get work and employment in other areas.
Good. Yeah, I know some activities regarding entrepreneurship coming up, and also the relationship with FC Köln now with the accelerator. Martin, I know you're a big, I would say, driver or important driver of entrepreneurship in Sweden. What's your strategy in terms of you're investing quite a lot in entrepreneurship? Tell us a little bit.
Yeah, so we've done sort of entrepreneurship at the Stockholm School of Economics for now, I think actually since around 2000. So the last sort of new economy. So we've done it for quite some time. We've had the business incubators, we've involved our alumni, we've built the ecosystem in Stockholm where we have a lot of startups. I think the next thing is to really start looking into how can you, when you do entrepreneurship, move it into sectors which has historically not been so entrepreneurial. So part-time, where except for being the director for the Center for Sports and Business, I'm also the director for the Accounting and Financial Management Center of Excellence. So now we're looking into how can you create CFOs that really support the entrepreneurship? Because as you know, Amir, running Hype, in the beginning, it's one thing. But when you get to a growth stage and you get all the money, you need a great CFO. And those CFOs, if we don't train the entrepreneurship there, it's going to be very, very difficult. Because then you have one part of the organization that's really sort of offensive, really entrepreneurial. And then you have another part of the organization that just keeps doing the books. And your investors are like, what do we get from the money? So I think the next step is going to be really looking into how can we create intersections between entrepreneurship and accounting, or entrepreneurship and sort of less, I think. And I think in sports, that's going to be super interesting. Now with COVID, when clubs and leagues, they don't have as much money, we are now launching a new thing where it's the modern finance function with a clear entrepreneurial twist. We think that's going to be a big hit because, thinking about liquidity issues is really about also being creative, really aligning with the commercial side of the business. So we really look forward to having entrepreneurial CFOs also in the sports world moving forward.
You can see by the way you are creating new entrepreneurship that, there is a entrepreneurship mindset behind the university. And that's it's not very common. So there are all kind of new ideas all the time to interact and to create value. Jim, let's hear your thoughts on how you see entrepreneurship. How is it in your university?
Yeah, absolutely. A few thoughts on that. So sport management as a discipline is still housed in a variety of different places on college campuses, right? I think that the majority of us on this panel have our programs in schools of economics, schools of business, but there are where entrepreneurship centers and innovation labs are commonplace. But we have a whole swath of sport management programs that are housed in education or physical education. So I think that that could be a question: is where's the proper house for sport management to be able to bring entrepreneurship into the fold? And you mentioned before about the entrepreneurial mindset. how do we instill that without, let's say, intentionally just creating an entrepreneurship course, but layer that mindset into all of our courses? Or are there other courses outside of our discipline that would be good connectors to entrepreneurship, such as classes in the liberal arts and philosophy and logic and other areas, right? Because we want to teach people how to think. So, you know, when you look at entrepreneurship across the board in I think any sport management worth its weight, it's all the stuff that we talked about before, connecting to the industry, providing some sort of consulting experience or real world experiences. But are we, as an academy, doing a good job of preparing our students for that before they even enter that arena, enter that stadium? I will share one story here at Ohio University. Our students, all of our business students, which include sport management students, their sophomore year, so their second year of 4, take what we call cluster. It's an entire semester where they are thrown into an uncomfortable situation where they have to do a real world consulting project for a particular business. We don't wait for them to be seniors where they're just about ready to leave, but rather we want to make them uncomfortable and shape them their second year at the university. And we find that, you know, our students go from, you know, basically kids to adults in that 1 year. And when they hit their junior year, they're just that much more polished. So I think I threw a lot of questions out there, but I think it really starts with, you know, where is sport management housed, and how do we prepare our students to be able to, as you put it, Amir, create this entrepreneurial mindset?
Great. How is it in the Trine University, Brendan?
Jim stole all my thunder. That was my answer. And it really kind of goes back to something Ian said when it's looking at your curriculum. And as I look at a lot of the other schools, at least here in Indiana, you know, around the Midwest, you know, as Jim said, a lot of them are kind of housed in PE or education where we're talking about sport management. So these students, they may not have an economics course, they may not have accounting, any type of management, anything like that. And, you know, teams, clubs, they're corporations and industries just like anything else in business. So, you know, I think some of these students maybe don't have that entrepreneurial mindset as much as business students do, and which is why, you know, at Trine, we put sport management in the School of Business because those skills that they need. Maybe a different kind of tack on this question is, I think for maybe some students who have an entrepreneurial mindset or have an idea, that kind of initial financial barrier, it's tough for them to kind of get over. Maybe they've got a great idea to develop an app or start a new business or whatever it would be. And I think there are some schools who might be able to get some grants or get some funding to kind of help them out with it. You know, smaller schools might have a little bit trouble. And, you know, kind of teaching students or developing some more relationships, whether it be with teams or in clubs, as we talked about at the beginning, or maybe even some venture capitalists that see the value in these students coming up with these great entrepreneurial ideas and giving them some seed money and developing those partnerships, I think would be pretty fruitful.
Great. How is it in London, Ian? Entrepreneurship.
So London is full of entrepreneurs, as you know, Amir. I mean, I'm picking up on, again, back to Jim, he nailed it, and you're coming about mindset. And it certainly is something that we can plumb into the curriculum and ensure students are exposed to experiences and development of skills that are enterprising type skills. And indeed, many of our graduates go on to set up their own SMEs in the first 2 years post-graduation. So I guess that's like in many universities. You know, we have boot camps, hackathons, we work with organizations external to us and have prizes and so on every year. But I guess that mindset is critical. And I guess for me, if we flip it and think, what are the big problems we're trying to solve? What are the big problems that society needs us to help solve as academic partners with the local franchise or the national sports body, whatever it might be? And I would say that they will only be really solved by entrepreneurial spirit and through that entrepreneurial endeavor. And they may come from unexpected places. Otherwise, they would already have been solved, wouldn't they? So I'll give you a quick example. So the University of East London is one of the most socially diverse campuses in the UK. And we compete very well in the sporting sense. So we'll be a top 10 in the UK in basketball, in soccer, tennis, volleyball, and athletics. And we're really proud of our achievements in sport from our diverse starting point. However, we also know that in the UK, the national talent pathways are not fully representative of the diverse community that we serve. And so how do we solve that? Because that isn't right socially. There's a social issue there for us to tackle. So prototyping approaches to improve that representation, again, to ensure the equality of opportunity to develop to one's own potential, may only be solved in the design of that prototype by an entrepreneur, by someone who thinks of things differently, who spots an opportunity from a tangent that in our traditional silos, in our generally slow-moving academic world, we haven't yet been able to discover. And I think that's where there's a real point of connection between the academic world and the sport and the business world to connect in that mindset space.
Yeah. Now, Ian, you mentioned diversity. I know you're renowned for your initiatives there. Can you share something practical or programs that you've done in order to really make a difference in the diversity space? I know it's an important and very, I would say, center topic now in the world.
No, it's a huge topic, isn't it? And I guess in our own context, we're all tackling that in our different ways. And I guess it's potentially ironic that we sit here as generally middle-aged blokes talking about diversity. It would be wrong of me not to mention that as I talk about inclusion, equality, and diversity. However, we are actively working now with one of our national sports agencies to prototype a new pathway, a new talent pathway for young people in the London and close to our campus. And that has to accept that we have to do things differently. Otherwise, the young people that we will attract into those pathways from a sporting perspective would already have been able to access the national body pathways. So it is a genuine prototype that is in development at the moment. And that is necessarily looking at different ways of doing. And different ways of doing would include, for example, thinking about psychology of sports performers, of young sports performers, in a slightly different way. It isn't necessarily about traditional sports psychology. So when I say sports psychology, what comes to your mind? It might be golf, it might be visual rehearsal, mental rehearsal. So what we're looking at is adding some positive psychology around the fulfillment of the whole self in the process of a young athlete developing towards their potential and learning from mistakes, learning through difficult circumstances in some cases, and how we best nurture and support those athletes to ensure they don't drop off the radar, they aren't cut from the squad without a plan B, and so on. So to cut a bit of a ramble short there, it's about kind of new approaches, different approaches to help tackle some long-standing problems. And that talent ID and talent development space linked to that issue of diversity is a real opportunity for new ideas.
It's very important. Thank you for this, Ian. We are just about to go to our final question and our final topic, and I want to maybe invite you to put everything you know at the moment and put it on the side and create like a white page where everything is possible. Yeah? Can you do that? Not easy. Like as if there is like, Men in Black, somebody's doing still there and you forgot the past and you have the future. Now, if I would give you a check, which is, let's say, a big check, $1 billion, yeah? Which will enable you to set up the futuristic education new structure which will focus on sports and, you know, everything around that. Everything is possible. You don't have to say and to get the approval of the dean or anybody else or director. This is your project. And you can do anything. You know, there is a guru now talking about, you know, education and the new schools, and they're going to look totally different, I mean, for kids. Yeah. The kids, the teacher that taught me is still taught my kids, by the way. Same teacher. Think about it. She's a great lady, but different times. Yeah. How would this look like? Yeah, if you can now really be really outrageous and bring some new thinking into that. And Martin, I'm going to give you the honor to blow our mind with this futuristic vision.
All right. Well, with that type of check, Amir, having been through the process of bidding for the Winter Olympics in 2026 and being the academic partner to the Swedish Olympic Committee, I would create an Olympic university. Because I think, to me, the IOC needs to revitalize themselves. So the experience that I've had is that IOC has invested a lot of resources in communication stuff. So they want to hear about research right before, and especially if the research goes along what they are doing. But what I would want is a truly new, because, you know, coming back to the issues that we've been discussing, sport is a global phenomenon. And the most global phenomenon that we have is the Olympic Games. And to me, I would take that $1 billion check, and I would create an Olympic university. And that Olympic university, I think, again, has some really good choices. There we wouldn't be bound to curriculum issues. We wouldn't be bound to a campus. We could sort of combine the best of physical and digital. And that sort of Olympic university, I think a lot of those partners, sponsors, would sort of come in. I'm sure Microsoft or IBM would say, yeah, you know, who wouldn't want to get involved in the Olympic university? So that would be my thing.
Great. Brandon, surprise us.
Well, after paying myself a nice, handsome salary, I think
it's hard work,
you know. That's right. It would be hard work. I would probably attack this from two different angles. One, I think I would kind of blow up our curriculum and what we do in college. I think some of the stuff that we do is kind of fluff, and it's, you know, for our accrediting bodies, so we can get to 120 credit hours. Some of the stuff that we include, we might not necessarily need, you know, looking at a 3-year college or track or whatever, but with a lot more type of applied programs where students are partnering with clubs or they're partnering with different types of innovative companies in sport to actually get them experience. So when they go out into the industry, they're ready and they're trained, and maybe not starting at the bottom level. I'd probably go that route. And then, you know, for me, my passion in what I'm researching is youth sport development. And I would love to come up with a way, you know, I think U.S. soccer does this pretty well as far as their coaching education and the different tiers that you work through. I would like to spread that out through baseball, basketball, football, certainly here in the States, and start really kind of educating people and educating coaches on how we're going to develop youth, because we see a dropout rate at about 70% when they reach 13 right now. And these are people, if we can keep them engaged as kids all the way up through high school, they're going to continue to spend their money on sport and rec, and there's jobs and there's opportunities in that. So what can we do to keep them active, to keep them consumers for a long time, but also develop them not so much for that 1% that's going to play pro, but for that 99% that, you know, won't make it to that level, but still want to be involved and still want to, and still is going to provide sport teams and clubs and organizations with revenue.
Great. By the way, you know where they're going when they're 13?
Where's that?
They're going to play esports, probably.
It's becoming huge right now.
Could be. Stefan, you have this check now with you, and you have the full liberty to make a difference in the world. Let's see how creative can you be as a German.
I think I would use the check in order to bring different stakeholders together and create a new academy, and to say, okay, how can we use sport, physical activities to address a lot of social inequality, social differences in our world, and to get different people, athletes, professional athletes, but also students together, and to develop ideas, etc., to implement them, and to give them the freedom, even if they fail, but to develop these entrepreneurial skills they need for the future, and to address these things, and to have like a lab, let's say, but an idea, to develop ideas, and also gives them the opportunities to implement them.
Okay, by the way, to do that, you don't need $1 billion, you just need hype. That's what we do, yeah? We teach entrepreneurship and we bring them to the real world with collaboration. So you're very modest with us today. There is a lot of money left in the check. Think about maybe in the end you'll have something else to share.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the world, I wouldn't just focus on Germany or Europe. I would see it more from a broader perspective, and see, okay, what can we do? And I mean, we have so many social inequality in the African countries or something like this, and really sometimes it's just, okay, they need a goal to play football or to do this kind of thing, but starting and use this as a starting point to develop things and to develop the economy, but also the country in many ways, and see sport as the starting point. And then what can we do elsewhere? How can sport has an impact on the industry to manufacture sporting goods, etc., and all this kind of stuff. But sport is a starting point for health issues, for social interactivity, etc., and this kind of stuff, but also from an economy, so more in a holistic perspective.
Got it. Ian, please.
Thank you. I think we can make $1 billion go quite a long way, Amir. So, first of all, Martin's point about an Olympic university. So, a global network of academy working towards, whether it's the Olympic and Paralympic values, or whether it's towards UN sustainable goals, using the vehicle of sport and physical activity, number one. How we would do that? Well, we certainly wouldn't build faculties. We wouldn't have any boundaries, digital and physical, and we wouldn't have any subjects, although the work of the people in the organization would be informed by all disciplines in a multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary way. But the key thing at the heart of that network would be questions. So no faculty, but lots of questions. And we put the world's best minds in sport academia to work to solve those questions. Be they Brandon's questions about youth sport participation, be they questions about sport for development in less developed countries, in the global south perhaps, and how we work together to best do that, to best effect. How do we know what works in those contexts? How do we activate women's professional sport in East London? That's a question we're working with our partner organisations currently. And to mobilise that work on a truly global level. And that could be done through our existing academic partnership type arrangements, student exchange, joint research projects, or it could become bigger and more meaningful and more impactful by joining it all together. So I would use the $1 billion as glue to try and bring the various bits of the jigsaw together in a really accelerated way.
Very good. And I think there are a lot of good ideas that came up already in this session. And I think people that are listening from the academic and beyond, most of the ideas, you don't need the $1 billion check to implement. They're just good ideas. Obviously, Jim, we gave you the honor to complete the round. with your mind-blowing ideas. So no pressure.
No pressure. All right. So I'd start out with what I said earlier of teaching students how to think, right? So that would be our motto. We'd probably have to translate into Latin just so we had some credibility as a university, right? Teaching people how to think. I would, because so many students come in that don't know what they want to be when they grow up, I would create an exploration year. Right? I'd blow up the 15-week semesters and I'd have pockets of everything. So we make sure that once students go from year 1 to year 2, they are pretty certain, or at least have, 75% of them know exactly what they want to do in that next step. I'd blow up the sage on the stage model. We as a professorate fall victim to that. We like to bloviate on stage and let our students be passive receptacles of information. So I'd go to whether it be flipped classroom models or Ian, what started in the UK, the tutorial college, where students sort of select and pick, choose their own adventure, to be able to develop and build their curriculum with certain hallmarks. I would have direct placement early for students to work in sport organizations. So going on the Olympic idea or, other sport organizations, but I think that we need to get students into those organizations early and then get them in there late too, so then they can, and let them fail, right? Let them make mistakes early, put them on low pressure projects. But, I think that we can all say that we've learned the most when we've made mistakes. And then finally, I would incorporate some sort of global experience. We have $1 million, so that has to be part of a free endeavor for our students, so our students can get out of their comfort zone, experience a different culture, learn to develop empathy and understanding of other people, other societies. And I think that could be a culminating experience. So it starts with teaching students how to think.
Brilliant. Okay, to wrap it up, I want to do just a quick round of summary and maybe one thing that you took from this session which was totally new to you. Something that you learned from this session, maybe, if there was anything, because maybe not. So let's start with Jim.
I learned that, we all come from different backgrounds and different perspectives. And I think that if there's one thing I took away from this is we don't talk with each other enough. So, if there's, I know a few of the panelists have already reached out on LinkedIn. I appreciate that, but I really look forward to continuing this dialogue, because I think that there's a lot to be done. And I think that we've got the right people in the room to be able to make it happen.
Excellent. London, Ian.
Yeah, I would echo that from Jim, and I would sort of encourage us, working hard proactively to blur the boundaries between the traditional structures. The various institutions that we represent are fine institutions, I'm sure, but we're siloed, and siloed with our partners, as well as with global potential that we've just discussed. So let's try and break those silos down. Even if we can't break all the boundaries down, let's stitch some better joins between us. Let's work on those junctures together.
Great. Stefan.
Yes, I just can here and repeat this. It's very obvious that there are a lot of opportunities. There are a lot of things which academia and also the professionals, the organization, the industries can share with each other. Sorry. And to bring sport on a new level, but it needs to cooperation, partnerships, and discussions on many fronts. Not only in terms of research, but also in terms of education when it comes to the entrepreneurial skills.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Stefan. Brendan.
Yeah, it's just nice to see that maybe some of the same things that we wrestle with here in the States, whether it be equality, or student engagement, working with clubs and teams, it's happening all over the world. And I think everybody here and a lot of other people in academia are really creative in how they're handling that. So I think the more that we collaborate and the more that we learn to reach out to teams and clubs and maybe kind of steal from each other, it's only going to strengthen us as an institution and individual institutions. And I think, hopefully strengthen our students overall.
Great. Martin.
Well, I think I got really energized throughout this hour. So for that, I'm really happy. One thing that struck me was that this is very similar to a physical panel, even though we sit in different places all around the world. I would think a little bit about the format. Next time I want to engage. I want to see the chat starting to explode. So everyone out there, how do we get this to be much more interactive? We talk about interaction. And I think this is still a little bit too traditional, like a traditional panel. I would want everyone to get involved. I think that picking up on earlier discussions around boundaryless things. Yeah. That's what I'm looking forward.
You gave us a challenge to introduce a new platform that will be much more interactive, some kind of a virtual reality where we can hug remotely.
That's, I'm looking forward to that. I got psyched throughout this hour, but I think there is at least one gear more.
All right, so I get a reminder from David, from our marketing director, if you can share later on the link of this recording. Great to have you on board. Plenty of exciting stuff ahead of us. Let's keep the communication going.
Thanks for the opportunity. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Amir.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.